What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Savage Rounds with Xavier. This is episode 27. Today for you, we've got Noche UFC predictions. Alexa Grasso taking on Valentina Shevchenko for the second time with the women's flyweight world title belt on the line. Della Maddalena versus Kevin Holland as the co-main event. Some fun fights ahead. Let's get into it, though. Kicking off the night, we've got Josephine Knutson versus Marnik Man, both making their UFC debuts. Both had attempts on Contender Series. Neither got a contract. Marnik Man lost to Bruno Brazil. It was that brutal head kick that got Bruno Brazil into the UFC. And Josephine Knutson, you can see, or Knutson, I'm not sure which one it is. You can see she beat Isis Verbeek this season, actually, of Contender Series, but didn't get a contract. Quickly, though, was called into the UFC to take on Yasmin Lucindo. The fight didn't pull through. Wasn't able to make it to the fight. We've got Marnik Man now. Knutson, 27 years old, 6-0, 5'3", 60-inch reach, 5-0 with a win on Contender Series, and her last fight was that win on Contender Series, like I said, against Isis Verbeek. On the Marnik Man side, 30 years old, 6-1, 5 feet tall, 64-inch reach, 4-1 in her last 5 with a loss on Contender Series, and her last fight was a unanimous decision victory over Amber Brown in LFA earlier this year. This is one, I think the first fight was an interesting matchup when it was Yasmin Lucindo. I think that could have been an interesting one. I definitely still would have gone with Yasmin, but definitely a closer fight in my opinion. This one, Marnik Man, she's good on the ground. She's aggressive when it gets to the ground. But on the feet, she's not the best. Her striking's okay. Not really too great, and her striking defense is definitely an issue. Her hands don't really stay up, and she eats a lot of shots. We saw that against Bruno Brazil. Her hands were down, and she just completely got caught with a head kick, slept. And early in the fight, the first strike that really hurt Isis Verbeek from Knutson was a big head kick, so that is something to look out for. I just think Knutson can take advantage on the feet for sure, and in the clinch positions. Knutson likes to work in the clinch a lot. I think she can do well with the knees and the elbows. She throws those elbows well coming off the clinch. She did a few times in Contender Series. And I saw a couple of her other fights before that on the regional scene. She was doing pretty well there as well in the clinch. She comes from a kickboxing background, so obviously she's got the striking advantage here, so she's going to take advantage of that. Marnik Man, she's going to shoot the takedowns. They're not the best. She can get them against lower level opposition, but she struggled against Bruno Brazil. Bruno was able to get up and defend some. I think Knutson will be able to do the same, stay on her feet, and win a decision most likely. This is definitely one I'm staying away from. You can see how wide the line is. There was nothing really bettable in this fight, but Josephine Knutson is the pick. Next up, the return of Alex Reyes, and he's taking on newcomer Charlie Campbell, another guy who had a Contender Series shot but got knocked out cold. I can't remember if he's fought in Contender Series more than once. I don't know why I might think that, but the one I know of most recently, he got knocked out by Chris Duncan pretty bad after he hurt him like 4 times. But Alex Reyes, the brother of Dom Reyes, you can see he hasn't fought since 2017. It was his only UFC fight, and he got KO'd pretty badly against Mike Perry. Alex Reyes, 36 years old, 13-3, 5'11", 73-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5, 0-1 in the UFC. And his last fight, like I said, was that round 1 knockout against Mike Perry. He lost back in 2017, so he really hasn't fought in quite some time. I think he had some problems with a sickness. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I remember hearing somebody talk about that, or maybe I read it on Twitter. But I feel like maybe it was an injury or a sickness, something like that. But there's been this huge long delay, and he's finally back. Charlie Campbell, 28 years old, 7-2, 6 feet tall, 72.5-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5 with a loss on Contender Series. And his last fight was a round 1 KO over Josh Streaker in, I believe that's Cage Fury FC, back in June. So not too long ago, he fought this year. I think this is probably going to be a tough first fight for Alex Reyes. He's very aggressive. He's got pretty solid power. He swings hard. He's got good takedowns too, and he's very good on the ground. The jiu-jitsu is solid. But I feel like he's going to have trouble getting Charlie Campbell to the ground. Charlie Campbell has shown good takedown defense before. You can see it's 100%. That's from his one Contender Series fight, and I believe that was Chris Duncan shooting while he was hurt, so I don't really take account of that. He's had to prove it in other fights outside the UFC. And on the feet, he's definitely a wild man. You saw it in the Chris Duncan fight. He hurt him 4 times, dropped him twice, something like that. And he's got a bunch of knockouts on his record. I think he's going to go out there and stuff takedowns if Alex Reyes shoots, and go toe-to-toe with him. He definitely could get caught, and who knows? Maybe Alex Reyes does go out there and get the takedowns, but I don't think he is. I think Charlie Campbell probably ends up knocking him out. Another fight, the line's pretty wide, and Alex Reyes hasn't fought in 5 years, and this is a debut for Charlie Campbell, so I'm definitely staying away from this fight betting-wise, but Charlie Campbell is the pick. Next up, Tracy Cortez taking on Jasudavicius. This is an interesting fight in the flyweight division. It's actually, I believe it's going to be Jasudavicius' first fight after getting into the rankings. She beat Miranda Maverick for that ranking. And Tracy Cortez, we saw her last time out. You can see it there versus Melissa Gatto. She hasn't fought in a bit of time, over a year now. Tracy Cortez, 29 years old, 10-1, 5'5", 65.5-inch reach, 5-0 in her last 5. And her previous fight was that one that I spoke about briefly, the unanimous decision victory over Melissa Gatto. Gatto was able to cause her some trouble in round 2 on the ground, but other than that, she did pretty well. She was winning on the feet, and her wrestling, obviously, that's her bread and butter. She went to that and was able to get the takedowns and have good top control, get a bit of ground and pound off as well. Jasudavicius, 34 years old, 9-2, 5'7", 68-inch reach, 4-1 in her last 5 with a win on Contender Series, and she's 3-1 in the UFC. Her last fight was, I also spoke about it briefly, the unanimous decision victory over Miranda Maverick to get herself into the rankings. That was in June of this year, so she's definitely fought more recently than Tracy Cortez. And this is going to be a really close fight. I think the odds reflect it well. I think now it's moved a little bit since I put the odds in earlier today. I believe Jasudavicius is plus 100 now, and Tracy Cortez is like minus 120, so it's moved just a bit to put Jasudavicius in the plus money. And I think I tend to lean Jasudavicius after just thinking it over and watching a bit of tape. Tracy Cortez, both girls are getting better on the feet. We know both of their wrestling is quite good. It's what they typically end up going to, and both are improving on the feet. Tracy Cortez showed it against Melissa Gatto. She did decently well there, and Jasudavicius did very well against Miranda Maverick on the feet. And I favor Miranda Maverick. I favor Jasudavicius' striking just a bit. I like the volume and the pressure she brings. Tracy Cortez is decent, but it's not like super high level from either one. I like the pressure and the aggressiveness from the bigger girl. Tracy Cortez is going to go out there and try and get the takedowns. We know that. I think being the bigger girl, I think she'll be a bit stronger. I like Jasudavicius to be able to stuff those takedowns and possibly get some of her own. I think there's a shot typically when... Well, I don't know how to say that. One of them could end up dominating if they're the better wrestler here. I guess that's what I was trying to say. I don't know why that was so hard for me to put together. If they're able to get the takedown, it may end up repeating like that. I feel like it tends to go like that with two wrestlers sometimes. If one is a bit better than the other, they're able to kind of just rinse and repeat that. So if Tracy Cortez is able to go out there and get the takedowns early, she may be able to do that. But if Jasudavicius can make it tough for her to get the takedowns, maybe shuck a couple off and do decent on the feet, maybe try for some takedowns of her own. I kind of trust Jasudavicius' cardio a bit better down the line. We've seen Cortez start to slow. It's never been like a huge issue for her, but we've seen her start to slow in round 3 before. So I lean Jasudavicius after saying all that. Her being a little bit bigger does play a part in it as well. It's not like a huge size advantage, but she's a bit taller. she may end up being the stronger girl in there as well. And I think her wrestling can keep up, and I favor her on the feet. So I'm going with the underdog here. I think she's plus 100 now. Betting wise, there's definitely a chance I'll end up playing Jasudavicius here. It's one that I'm considering. I haven't played it yet. The only thing I've done, I have one parlay in so far. I always end up doing stuff so late in the week, but I did the one parlay I did like a week and a half ago just so I could get better odds. I'll talk about it when I get to it. And the odds I didn't even get were too great, but I didn't want it to move anymore. But yeah, may take a shot at plus 100 on Jasudavicius. We'll see if it stays or moves a little bit in the morning. That's probably when I'll end up playing it. But yeah, the pick is Jasudavicius here for me. Next up, Edgar Shyros taking on Daniel Lucerda. This is attempt number 5 for Daniel Lucerda, and I haven't read out the stats yet, but you can see it there. He's 0-4 in the UFC. He's been finished in all 4, but he is so exciting. The fights are always super entertaining. It feels like he always hurts his opponent early, but just isn't able to get the guy out of there, and then his gas tank doesn't hold up. And Shyros had that tough debut versus Tatsuro Taira. That's a really tough debut. But let me read the stats out first. Shyros, 27 years old, 10-5, 5'7", 71-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5 with a loss on Contender Series, and he's 0-1 in the UFC. His last fight, like I said, was that unanimous decision loss to Tatsuro Taira. He was able to cause him a bit of trouble on the feet at points, but for the most part, Tatsuro Taira was able to get it done with the grappling, where he is always so good. Definitely an up-and-coming guy that you should watch for. I believe he's got a ranked fight coming up next. I believe it's Daniel Dvorak. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like I saw that, though. On the Lucerda side, also 27 years old. He's 11-5, 11-1 coming into the UFC after losing 4 straight. 5-6, 70-inch reach, 5'6", 5'6", 70-inch reach, 1-4 in his last 5, 0-4 in the UFC. Like I said, his last fight was a round 2 knockout loss TKO loss to CJ Vergara back in March in San Antonio. He had at one point CJ Vergara sprinting around the ring while he was wobbled, or sprinting around the octagon while he was wobbled for his life, trying not to get finished by Lucerda. But Lucerda wasn't able to wasn't able to get Vergara out of there, and CJ toughed it out, was able to get Lucerda down to the ground in the second round, start landing some nasty ground and pound. And just the cardio never holds up for Lucerda. He's got to get the guys out of there early. And I think that is a really tough ask against Edgar Shyros. He's never been knocked out. He's been submitted before. Never in the first round, I believe. He was submitted in the 5th round or the 4th round once, and then in the 2nd round once, and never knocked out, like I said. I don't see how Lucerda's... I mean, obviously, he's got some crazy striking and obviously big power. He's really quick and creative, too. So if anybody's going to go out there and randomly do something crazy and knock someone out, it's going to be Daniel Lucerda in his 5th shot after going 0-4 in the UFC. But I think Edgar Shyros is going to be too tough. He's got good hands as well. He can land big shots, and the durability for Lucerda is questionable. We know the cardio makes him tend, or I wouldn't say makes him, or I don't even know if he's giving up. It's hard to say after 4 times, where it feels like the cardio gives up on him and he just can't go anymore. Maybe he's quitting. Maybe he really just can't go. Who knows? But we didn't see it against Tatsuro Taira. But Shyros also has very good grappling. I believe he's got like 8 submissions on his record. Obviously, Tatsuro Taira is a tough guy to go out there and show that against, so he wasn't really able to do that in his debut. But I think he can go out there and if he doesn't get sparked early or like clipped early and submitted really quick in the first round, I feel like he can go out there and get Daniel Lucerda out of the octagon by the end of the second round. So the pick's going to be Edgar Shyros. Betting wise, the over-under is 1.5, over 1.5 plus 165, under 1.5 minus 205. So that's a bit tough. I could definitely see it going over or under for either guy, to be honest. If it goes over, I tend to favor Shyros, but Lucerda's still live and wild. I mean, if he's alive, there's always a chance, but the longer it goes, I tend to favor Shyros. I probably won't touch the over-under. There might be, I might end Shyros into a parlay or something if my book would allow me to parlay inside the distance plays. I would probably do Shyros at minus 170 with something, but at this point I'm not 100% sure. There's a decent chance I'll end up throwing Shyros at minus 225 now, I believe, into a parlay though, with maybe something like Jasudavicius, or I don't know. There's some other guys we'll talk about soon. Next fight up, one of the guys I was talking about, I played the parlay like a week and a half to get the better line. Kopylov is in that. I got him at like 275, I think. 280 maybe, something around there. So he's sitting at like 335, 330 right now. So I beat the line just a bit. I definitely could have gotten even even earlier and gotten him at like minus 250 or even lower, but I wasn't focused on this week 2 weeks ago. But yeah, Kopylov, 32 years old, 11-2, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5. He's on a 3-fight win streak right now, all finishes. His last fight was a round 2 KO TKO finish over Claudio Ribeiro at UFC 291 in July of this year, so not too long ago. His opponent, Josh Fremd, 29 years old, 11-4, 6'4", very tall, 76-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5, 2-2 in the UFC. And his last fight was a unanimous decision victory over Jamie Pickett, also not too long ago, just a month ago in August, at UFC Vegas 78. This is a weird fight because it was supposed to be like Chris Curtis versus Anthony Hernandez, and then it ended up being Anthony Hernandez versus Kopylov, and then Anthony Hernandez even ended up falling out, and he was replaced by Josh Fremd, so now we have 2 completely different fighters than we started with, and it's both on short notice for him now, so that always makes things interesting. I do favor Roman Kopylov here. I think he can cause Josh Fremd a lot of trouble. When Josh Fremd strikes, his chin is way up in the air. Kopylov, he lost his first 2 UFC fights, and now he's on a 3-fight finishing streak. I think he's getting, I guess, more calm, more relaxed, more used to it. When he was hunting for KOs, it was hard to find him, but it feels like he's flowing more. He's letting the combinations go a bit better. He's a bit more patient and calm, like I said, and it just feels like he's putting things together better. I really like him on the feet here against Josh Fremd, a guy who swings a bit wild and leaves his chin up. He's definitely got power. Kopylov's been clipped before. He's been hurt, so a guy who's 6'4" and has big power could definitely hurt Kopylov. And we've seen Kopylov have trouble on the ground before. Albert Drive was able to get him down. That was one of his 2 UFC losses. That's something I've heard people talking about with Fremd having an option for. I don't know. I don't tend to think Fremd is a good enough wrestler to go out there and take Kopylov down since that since the Albert Drive fight. We've seen people try and take him down, but it hasn't gone as well. So I think you've got to be a decent wrestler to be able to get him down. You see the 90% takedown defense. Just once he's on the ground, sometimes he struggles to get back up. But in this fight, I do like Kopylov. I think he's going to finish Josh Fremd. I think he's going to be able to keep it on the feet if Fremd shoots. I don't even really know if Fremd is going to shoot all that much. He might try and clinch Kopylov and maybe get him down from there, like clinch him up against the fence and try and get him down from there. But I do think a majority of this fight, probably all of it, will take place on the feet. I do think Kopylov gets him out of there. Like I said, Kopylov's now sitting at minus 330. I was able to get him a bit earlier, like a week and a half ago before I made this video. Maybe a week ago, maybe not a week and a half, something like that. The Kopylov KO line sitting at minus 150. I may end up putting something on that. I'm not 100% sure yet. I do think he gets the KO, but the line is, I would have liked it at obviously he's a big favorite, so we're not going to get it at plus money, but I would have loved to get like plus 100 on it, plus 120, something like that. But with him being a huge favorite and Fremd being knocked out before, we're probably not going to get something. We didn't, obviously, but yeah, I'm going with Kopylov as the pick, and yeah, I like the money line. If you got him early, it's a good money line. Maybe now it's a bit wide. Next up, a women's strawweight bout. We've got Godinez taking on Elise Reed. Godinez, 30 years old, 10-3, 5'2", 61-inch reach, 4-1 in her last 5. Her last fight being a unanimous decision victory over Emily Ducote in May of this year. Elise Reed, 30 years old, 7-3, 5'3", 63-inch reach, 3-2 in her last 5. Her last fight being a unanimous decision victory over Jinh Fry in June of this year. So both having fought not too long ago in the middle of this year. I like Godinez in this fight. It's another one where the line's really wide, so betting-wise, it's going to be hard to get in on, especially if you've waited until Friday at this point. But I think on the feet, Elise Reed can definitely make this a fight. She's got the bouncy in and out style. Her hands are quick. She throws a lot of kicks. I think the speed and the timing that she has with her hands is what helps her drop girls. It's not like she's a big power puncher, but she's so quick in and out. She really darts well, and that's really what helps her drop girls. And I think maybe if she's able to hurt Godinez, then that could cause her issues, but Godinez has very good boxing herself. I think she will be able to hand herself on this feet. I just think that's where Elise Reed can make it the most competitive. I do think Lupi is going to go out there and mix in the takedowns like she typically does. She's got the submission ability. She's got solid ground and pound. Elise Reed has never been the best. You can see 50% takedown defense in her UFC career. Obviously, she's working at it, and it's getting better, but it's never been her strong suit, and she does really struggle off of her back. That is probably even less of a strong suit than the takedown defense. She was submitted by, I can't remember her name. She's the Muay Thai fighter, and I can't even think of her name now. Actually, I can pull it up. Hold on. Let's see, Elise Reed. Oh, Lookbunmi. I didn't even have to finish pulling it up. Lookbunmi. She was submitted by Lookbunmi quite a few fights back, and I just think if Lookbunmi is able to make it that tough for you on the ground and get you out of there, Lupita Godinez mixing in her takedowns can definitely make it tough. I don't know. I'm not confident enough to bet, or like to say confidently, I think she's going to go out there and get the submission. I think this totally could be. They strike for a bit. Lupita Godinez goes out there and gets takedowns. Elise Reed tries to survive. And we do that kind of thing until we get to the end of the fight. And Godinez wins a unanimous decision. Maybe Lupita goes out there and is able to mix in the takedowns and get the submission or get the ground and pound off and do well there. So I'm not confident in that. The over-under 2.5 is over -175, under +145, and the Godinez sub is +200. I think the sub isn't a bad shot, but I don't know if I love it enough to play it. I may take like a small half a unit shot at it. I'm not 100% sure though. Maybe like if I win a couple bets beforehand, I throw something a little bit down, or I don't know. I don't love anything here. I'm kind of just talking to force a bet, but nothing I love. I really probably won't play anything in this one. But Lupita Godinez is the pick. Next up, Fernando Padilla taking on Kyle Nelson. Fernando Padilla, this is going to be his second fight after his debut against Julian Erosa, where he looked very promising. We didn't get to see a lot of him, so it'll be interesting to see him go out there and fight somebody else in the UFC. Padilla, 26 years old, 15-4, 6'1", 76-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5, 1-0 in the UFC. His last fight, I talked about it a little bit, that round 1 KO TKO victory over Julian Erosa in his debut back in April. Like I said, solid performance. We didn't get to see too much of him, so I'm excited to see him go again. He's taking on Kyle Nelson, 32 years old, 14-5-1, 5'11", 71-inch reach, 2-2-1 in his last 5. His last fight was a victory, unanimous decision victory over Blake Builder in June of this year. I do think Fernando Padilla is going to go out there and win. Kyle Nelson is decently well-rounded. His wrestling's okay if he can get on top. He's not really going for it. He's definitely a primary striker here. He's hittable. He's, I would say, like quite your standard striker. It's not super creative, but he's just decent at what he does. Nothing too crazy overall. He's got a decent leg kick, which could be something for him to go out there and throw here. Padilla's not the best at checking leg kicks, but I do think if he's at that range with Padilla, it's going to be trouble, because I like Padilla on the feet. He's a quick striker. He's got good power, and he's definitely. I brought up that Kyle Nelson's more of like a standard striker, because for Fernando Padilla, I was going to say he's a bit more creative. I like the odd angles he throws at. I like the creativity a bit more. I think it can cause problems for Kyle Nelson. Obviously, Kyle Nelson's got the big power, so if he can catch Fernando Padilla, I think I say that every time Kyle Nelson fights. I always pick the other guy and then say, but Kyle Nelson has big power, so if he can do that, then there's that. But it didn't even take place versus Blake Bilder. He was able to go out there and get the unanimous decision victory. That's just always what I feel like when I'm kind of predicting his fights. But yeah, I like Padilla in this one. Betting wise, nothing I really love. He's sitting at minus, it might be a bit more at this point. It's probably around minus 250 right now. No, I'm not overly confident in this. I do favor Padilla, but it's nothing I'm willing to go out there and put money on. Like I said, I do want to see him again. We didn't get to see much of him, so it'll be real interesting to see how he does here, if he can get past somebody like Kyle Nelson. Next bout, we've got lightweights. Daniel Zellhuber taking on Christos Giagos. Zellhuber, 24 years old, 13-1, 6'1", 77-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5 with a win on Contender Series, and he's 1-1 in the UFC. His last fight being a unanimous decision victory over Lando Venata in April of this year. His opponent, Christos Giagos, 33 years old, 20-10, 5'10", 71.5-inch reach, 32, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. His last fight being a round 1 KO victory over Ricky Glenn, just a week after Zellhuber was able to get his victory back in April. Christos Giagos is a very well-rounded fighter. He's pretty good at everything he does. He can go out there and put the wrestling shoes on, try and wear you down, grind on you, search for submissions, get the ground and pound off. He can also stand and strike. He's got pretty good power. He puts together decent combinations. His striking defense is where he can lack a bit. It's not the best. His guard's a bit wide. He's definitely hittable. His stamina is good as well. I forgot to bring that up. Just as a well-rounded fighter for Giagos. And I think that striking defense is definitely going to be an issue for him against a big, long, tall guy like Daniel Zellhuber. Zellhuber's got good takedown defense to pair with the striking, so I think that could cause Giagos problems. He's going to go out there and try and get the takedowns. The way I see it going, he gets stuffed, and Zellhuber's really able to put the jab in his face. He's got, a 5.5-inch reach advantage there, 3-inch height advantage. I think he'll probably be a bit quicker than Christos Giagos in there, and I just like him to put together a pretty solid performance. Giagos is a tough guy, so I think Giagos can put a good pace on him and be aggressive and make this difficult, but I just think the jab for Zellhuber is going to be there all night. He's a bit more technical and crisp than Giagos, Zellhuber is, and I don't know if Giagos is going to be able to get the takedowns going like he wants. So I'm going with Zellhuber in this one. Betting wise, I feel pretty solid about Zellhuber, even though I do think Giagos is a decent fighter and he can make this an interesting fight. I do feel pretty good about Zellhuber, so he may be someone I end up throwing in a parlay, maybe something with a couple over-unders I like, or maybe one of the dogs I liked as well. I could see myself doing something like that. But Zellhuber is the pick for sure, and moneyline really the only thing I'm considering betting-wise. And I don't know, even if I would bet it straight, it'd be a parlay thing for sure. Next up, the return of Rosas Jr. We saw him fight in April. It was not a good performance. He did decent in the first round, was able to get the takedowns. Nothing too crazy. It wasn't a dominant round for him or anything, but was able to make it interesting. And then his gas tank completely failed on him. He wasn't really able to go out there and find the takedowns anymore. And Christian Rodriguez was able to get it done via unanimous decision. Rosas Jr., 18 years old, 7-1, 5'9", 67-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5, with a win on Contender Series, and 1-1 in the UFC. Like I talked about, his last fight was that unanimous decision loss to Christian Rodriguez in April. His opponent, he's taking on Terrence Mitchell. This will be his second appearance in the UFC. He's 33 years old, 14-3. I believe he was on The Ultimate Fighter 2. He got smoked by Kai Kara France, I do believe. something like that. Was it The Ultimate Fighter? I feel like it was. That video went super viral, but I'll continue with the stats. I can't remember where I was. 5-10, 74-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5, 0-1 in the UFC. That 1 in the UFC was his last fight, a round 1. KO TKO lost to Cameron Simon in July of this year, so not too long ago at all. I think this is definitely a matchup they're trying to give Rosas Jr. to get back on his feet. Terrence Mitchell's striking is okay. He's definitely wild, and he's got decent kicks as well. The wild is the best thing going for him, I'd say. So if he can catch Rosas, I'd say that's his best opportunity. Or maybe he'll find some wild submission too, because he does have solid jiu-jitsu. I don't think he's going to go out there and be able to get takedowns. I don't think he's really going to be, especially in the first round, the stronger guy. I think Rosas will be able to go out there and get takedowns as he wants, and I don't know. I don't really think Terrence Mitchell is that good, especially after that performance versus Cameron Simon. I feel like they're kind of throwing Rosas a layup here, and this was the second half of that parlay I was talking about that I placed like a week and a half ago. I believe Rosas was sitting at like minus 550 around then, so it's still not a great number, but it was just my chalk parlay for the week. I think it comes out to like minus 150, so not too bad there. Just the chalk for the week. Just feel like it's the easy parlay for the week. I don't know. Yeah, they're feeding Terrence Mitchell to Raul Rosas Jr. They want to get him back on his feet. He's 18 years old. Yeah, they're trying to give this young man a win. Raul Rosas is the pick. If you could have gotten him a while ago at a decent price, it's worth it. At minus 800 now, it is a stretch. Even, to be honest, I was reaching at minus 550, but I just felt like I could still get the parlay at minus 150, so I felt like that was decent enough. But yeah, I feel like he's getting fed to Rosas. Rosas is the pick. Don't worry about betting him now at this point. Next up, the co-main event. I'm extremely excited for this fight. This is going to be a banger. Kevin Holland taking on Della Maddalena. Kevin Holland, 30 years old, 25-9, 6'3", 81-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight being a round 1 submission victory over Michael Chiesa in July. He's on a 2-fight win streak now, I believe. And Della Maddalena, 27 years old, 15-2, 5'11", 73-inch reach, 5-0 in his last 5. His last fight was a split decision victory over Basel Hafez, also in July. This was by far his toughest UFC test. He was in submission trouble against Ramazan Imiev for a little bit, but that was really the biggest trouble he'd been in through all his fights up until Basel Hafez. Basel Hafez really, really gave him a full, tough fight. I do think, though, it was kind of an overreaction from everybody, trying to make it seem like Hafez could have won that fight, or even should have. Some people were trying to make it seem like. I thought Della Maddalena quite clearly won 2 rounds, and there's even a case for a 10-8 in the 3rd round. But yeah, Della Maddalena is still getting it done, even in his toughest performance, but it was versus somebody coming in on short notice, making their UFC debut. So I think that's why people were kind of overreacting, making a big deal about it, trying to make it seem like Basel Hafez won that fight. But I do favor Kevin Holland in this fight. It has nothing to do with that Basel Hafez fight, to be completely honest with you. I just think Kevin Holland has had success versus a guy who likes to box and will shell up and walk forward and throw big punches. Obviously, the guy he fought that I'm referring to, Joaquin Buckley, is not nearly the technical level or even as good of a fighter, I'd say, as Della Maddalena, but still a good fighter, and it was up at 185 pounds, so different weight class. I'm not sure that really makes much of a difference in just talking about how he did versus the style, especially just one weight class apart. But I think Kevin Holland can go out there and kick the legs. He's thrown a lot of leg kicks in his past couple fights. Della Maddalena will throw a few throughout a fight. He's never been, or at least in the UFC, he's not really been a big leg kicker. Most of his fights, I want to say all of his UFC fights have been under 10. I really don't think any have gone over 10 leg kicks, but he's not really one to go out there and do that. I think Kevin Holland will go out there and kick his legs. He's got a really nice jab, a laser straight, He can fight well, southpaw orthodox, and I just think that big long reach, 8 inches of reach, 4 inches of height, I think that's going to cause a lot of problems for Della Maddalena. I think he's going to go out there and get this fight done. Whether he finishes him or not is an interesting question. Holland inside the distance, shifting over betting wise. Holland inside the distance is sitting at plus 230. That could be something interesting, but I'm not really convinced on a finish. I do think if Holland is going out there and landing that jab and that straight a lot, keeping the distance, using the leg kicks well, I think the finish is live. It's possible, so I may take a small shot at it, but I do think I'll probably just put maybe like a unit and a half on Kevin Holland, maybe just a unit on the money line because he is an underdog. No reason to really risk too much on the inside the distance when I can still get him at plus money. The over/under 2.5, over plus 110, under minus 140. Like I said, I'm not really sold on a finish. I think it's there. I think Kevin Holland could also win a decision. But yeah, I'm going with Kevin Holland. It might not be the favorable pick this week, the one everyone's going with, but I do like Kevin Holland to get this one done. I just like what I've seen versus this kind of style before. I know it's a higher level with Della, but I'm going with Kevin Holland. Main event, Grasso taking on Valentina Shevchenko for the second time for the flyweight belt, the women's flyweight belt. Grasso, 30 years old, 16-3, 5'5", 66-inch reach, 5-0 in her last 5. Her last fight, obviously, being when she won the belt versus Valentina Shevchenko. She won by round 4 submission. Valentina Shevchenko, 35 years old, 23-4, 5'5" as well, 66.5-inch reach, 4-1 in her last 5. And same deal. Obviously, her last fight was that one versus Grasso where she lost the belt. This is an interesting one because for all the same reasons I favored Valentina in the first fight, I kind of like her here. I think we know going into that 4th round, before she was finished, Valentina was up 2-1. It was on all the judges' scorecards. She lost the first round, 1, 2, and 3. I think Valentina can go out there and make the adjustments to win that round 1 striking, because obviously she lost it. Grasso was doing well striking in that first round. I think Valentina can make those adjustments, counter strike a bit better, be a bit less stationary. She felt very stationary in that first fight. I think she can go out there, make those adjustments, win that first round, and do what she did in round 2 and 3. Continue to mix in the takedowns, continue to counter strike, be a bit more active, I'd say. And I really feel like she can win 3 rounds. Maybe she finds the finish, maybe she doesn't. But I do feel like she really can go out there and win at least 3 rounds of this fight. Obviously, she may have done that last fight. I think Grasso was probably going to win that 4th round, so it was going to be 2-2 going into the 5th. But even if Valentina is up 3 rounds at that point, Grasso still got the finish, so it didn't matter. But obviously she's got to avoid the finish. But I really do think Valentina can make the adjustments to win the first round on the feet a bit better and mix in those takedowns and do well like she did in 2 and 3. Obviously, she was starting to look a bit tired in 3, and I think that's why Grasso was able to kind of put the pedal on the gas a bit and do better in the 4th round to take it. Valentina wasn't able to get the takedowns like she wanted to anymore, but I really do feel like she can make that adjustment and win the first round here. I think she gets 3 rounds here, minimum. I think we see her more dominant from the top position this time when she gets it on the ground, and yeah, I'm going Valentina Shevchenko. I'm not betting this fight at all. I'm just going to sit back and watch. I don't feel like I'm not super confident. I'm not shouting Valentina's a lock. Go place money on her. So I'm just going to sit back and watch. But I do think Valentina's going to win this fight. More dominant from the top position, and she'll make adjustments to strike a little bit better in the first. I think obviously Grasso is going to do that too. But I like the top 3 of all time to go out there and get it done at least one more time, win her belt back. I'm going Valentina Shevchenko. And lastly, we'll get into the Savage Rounds parlay. I talked about last week's in the recap, but if you didn't see that, we finally missed one. So we were on a 4-week win streak. I thought we were gonna beat or at least tie the streak. We'd gone on a really nice run. We were up to 7.1 units. So we dropped 1 unit. We dropped one, brings the record to 1611 plus 6.1 units, and we try and restart the win streak this week. I don't know if I've ever put a dog in the Savage Rounds parlay before, so might be a little risky, but I'm feeling good about Kevin Holland. I like Kopylov. I feel like these are both pretty good spots. Both guys, I think, can get it done on the feet. I talked about it for Kopylov. I really like the progression he's made, or at least that he's shown in these past 3 fights. He's a very technical striker. I think he's going to be the more technical guy for sure in this fight. I like the power. I like the speed. He's more steady than Josh Fremd. Josh Fremd hangs his chin out there. I think he can go find the knockout. For Kevin Holland, I talked about it. He's had success before fighting, not this exact style, but this type of kind of put the shell up, likes to box, get in close, and throw the big, powerful boxing combos. I feel like he can use his range. I talked about it. You guys don't want to hear the whole spiel again. I talked about why I think Kevin Holland's going to win, but Kopylov, Kevin Holland, that's the parlay this week. You can get it at plus 198. The profit is if you've put 1 unit on it each week. So this week would be a decent little jump for us. It would put us at just over plus 8 units if we can hit this. We'll restart the win streak. But yeah, that's Noche UFC here in Las Vegas. Very excited. And drop a like, subscribe on this video on the channel, and I'll see you guys next week for the recap and the matchmaking. Peace out.